So you can see the first slide I have here. This is Pickle Crow. I think the last time I presented, it didn't have as much snow. It has more snow again. Today was minus 45. I've got a few things here that you might like to see and point out. You can see we have great access. This is a great aerial shot. And you'll see just about here on this marker that I've got here, that this is where the old mill is. This is obviously access up through here. And when we get to the long section, this is really what we're talking about through here. That's what you're really looking at. 3.5 kilometres of strike, which is fabulous. So there we are. That's where we exist. Here's a 24-man camp. Here's the core stack. Here's the core shed here, just here. Here's the office. You can see there's plenty of facilities for a lot of people. We're really well equipped for infrastructure. The disclaimer, you can read that at your leisure. So what do we have here? Well, you'd all remember that we have 1 million ounces at 11.3 grams per tonne. I mean, this is really exciting stuff. And it seems to me that people really have not focused on the quality of the asset that we have here. This current phase of drilling that we have has successfully and repeatedly intersected extensions of this known mineralised structure that we have at Pickle Crow. Multiple high-grade lodes, which we'll talk about. Our latest was 5.6 metres at 33 grams per tonne from a very shallow 20 metres from surface. The diamond drilling continues with 4 rigs turning. We've completed about 20,000 metres to date. Further results will be ongoing in the next 4 to 5 months. Mineralisation remains open at strike, at depth, with multiple lodes still outside of this resource. Very exciting times for us, to be honest. And a lot of our focus now, which I'll take you through, is around this Shaft 3 area. We have great infrastructure. We've got this program that we keep talking about of 45,000 metres, so we still have an additional 25,000 metres to go. We've got a granted mining licence to 2067. I'm always fond of telling people I won't be here to see the end of that, but many of my colleagues will. And we're well funded, very well funded to see through this whole program. You'll remember that Pickle Crow was one of Canada's most prolific mines in its day. And just to remind you, it didn't stop in 1966 due to a lack of mineralisation. It finished up because it was uneconomic, with gold falling to a price of $35 an ounce. So we have a great outlook going forward, which I'll take you through, and we've got scope for further resource update. So I'm fond of saying, but I will repeat it again, that an asset is only an asset unless you have the people to exploit it properly. And I'm happy to announce that Darren Cook has recently joined the team. It's a great acquisition for us, a very good hire, and already in a very short period of time, he officially started on the 1st of February. In a very short period of time, he's made a fantastic impact on our current operations, so much so that some of the programs that he's put in place we're already following. So in his first 8 days, it's been quite remarkable. For mine, I'm the ex-founding chairman of Bellevue, and I left there in September 2019 to pursue these very things. I'm much more exploration orientated, but I'm lucky enough to have my fellow directors at Bellevue, both Steve Parsons and Mike Naylor. Great guys to have as non-executive directors. As I say, the CEO is now Darren Cook. Great credentials there. You can read those. And of course, Marcus Harden, who is at site as we speak and has been there since June last year and continues to stay there. And things are going very well for him. The classic corporate summary here. Finished up at 11 cents, got a market cap of 170 million, take off for roughly 30 million. And, we've got an unchallenging enterprise value of 140 million. That's really worth considering when I talk about the fact that if you look at all of the TSX listed and ASX listed companies and do any analysis of any of those that have got over 1 million ounce resource, where we are, in our estimation and my belief, the number one player with grade and 1 million ounces. Bellevue's up there as well, believe it or not. And there's only another one player that's got 10 gram plus. So really, in terms of valuation, it's very unchallenging. Second takeaway there is the board and management own quite a bit of the company. So all the shares that the board and management own today have been bought on market, no gifted shares whatsoever. Steve and I have participated in placements all the way through, and we'll continue to support where we can. And of course, one of the most gratifying things here is how, when we first started in January 2020, we had zero Australian or global institutional support. Today, over a quarter of our company is held by institutions both in North America, Europe, and of course, Australia. So we're pretty happy with that. So these are the key dates. This is what to expect from us. So you saw our 1st of September update, where we came out with 1 million ounces, 11.3 grams per tonne. You've seen our latest resource, our latest drill results, which have been fantastic. And they're all these near mine extensions that we talk about. And that's still currently in progress. And I'll take you through where our focus is in a couple of slides. But you can see what we'll be doing is our phase 3 program, phase 4 program, about resource definition and regional targeting. So we currently have 4 rigs that are just around a small area. But once we get the 5th and 6th rigs, we'll be looking at targeting that regional area, which I might add is incredibly exciting, and we really can't wait to get our teeth into. It is quite spectacular. I'll take you through that as well. And then I expect by late June to have to you a resource update. So lots to come from us over the course of the next 5 months. I talk about infrastructure, but what's really important here is to understand that there's daily flights from Toronto to Thunder Bay. It's a very, very short flight from Thunder Bay up to Pickle Lake Airport. And then you can see from that Pickle Lake Airport down to that photograph in the left-hand corner, which is the core shed, is only 15 minutes. So you can be in that core shed after your flight in 15 minutes. So access is really good and also very important for crew, changeovers, and shift work for anyone that's doing that. So it's really, really important. We also have the Hydropower Grid. We have sealed roads, as you saw in my first slide, those daily flights I talk about. We've got on-site exploration infrastructure. We've got the 24-person field camp, core shed, existing mill. The mill's small, and we're still yet to strategize on best way to exploit that. But it has never been turned on, and we have a 600 kilowatt generator on site. Year-round exploration. So right now, even though I mentioned that it's minus 45 chill factor on site, we still have geos doing chem work, and all the drillers are working as well. So they're all rigged up. They all have the appropriate gear to work in these conditions. Why the drillers like it so much is the ground is so firm, so they can get in and out and get access really, really well. I talk about 320 square kilometres of land holding, but as I announced on earlier the last week, is that we've increased that now to 490 square kilometres while taking some extra area around the Pickle Crow asset. So that's really exciting and really important to say for the first time a corporate of our nature has had such a large land holding in an incredibly prolific area. We love Ontario. This next slide shows you our neighbours. Really important to understand where we are at a new and improved area of 490 square kilometres. But you can see to the north, you've got the Musselwhite project with Newmont. You can see over to our west, we have Red Lake, which is owned by Evolution, Springpole, which is owned by First Mining, And we've also got the Dixie project, and it'll be great to see how they perform over the course of the next 5 months when it's anticipated they'll come out with their maiden resource. They've had some great hits, so we look forward to that. And you can see that we're in that Uche sub-province, very, very important area. Now, this is the focus. This is exploration in the shadow of that head frame that we keep talking about. And you can see here where we've now characterised, we've updated this for you to characterise those 3 areas in which we tend to focus. 1.5 million ounces at 16 grams per tonne of historical production came from this area. And with our 1 million current inferred resource at 11 grams per site, we sit on this 3.8 kilometre strike, northeast trending. It's really, really good. And I will show you in later slides, but this sub-vertical core mine shear, which extends further to the southwest there, that's really important to understand. Currently, the exploration is focused on this area in the top 500 metres and predominantly the top 300 metres, if I'm going to be fair. And it's got a 3-pronged approach here. And it's really important you understand that. So we want to bring those identified zones of mineralisation into JORC resource, which is what we've started. We want to extend known resources along strike, and that's, you'll see there that we've done that with vein 5 and vein 11, the step outs, which are at the bottom of the photo picture there, and new discoveries, which we've just recently announced, where we had 6 metres at 33 grams per tonne. And we're seeing more and more veins with visible gold. And so the challenge for us is not that we are not discovering gold, but it's the challenge for us is to find those veins that are carrying a high load. So we're really, really excited about what's in front of us in the current. But as I sort of point out, here is the area just here of focus at the moment. So it's really exciting stuff for us. And here is some of the intercepts that we just recently announced, that 5.6 metres at 33 grams, 1.5 metres at 16 grams, 1.5 metres at 26, and on it goes. And you can see here that this is a new discovery, and this is outside the current resource. You've got to remember that, and it's along known mineralisation. So as we've been talking about, alongside this second vein, what we're doing here is we're picking up a lot of vein, visible gold, and now we've got to work out which is the best one to target. And here, this long section, I love this long section. I've shown it to you before, but most important, because I'm conscious of time, is our focus very much at the moment is around this area here, alongside shaft 3, in this cyan-coloured area. But you can see between shaft 1 and shaft 3, there's plenty of areas for us to target. And so the blue box is the focus of the area at the moment. That's where our 1 million ounces at 11.3 grams comes from. That's also where 1.5 million ounces at a stunning 16 grams per ounce came from. But you can see here, our focus now is along this core mine shear. I'll draw it again for you, so it's really clear for you. It's along here, right? This is where our focus will be when we start looking at these targets, these brownfield targets, and really, really unlocking the potential of the Pickle Crow asset that we have. We've got that Springer shaft, you can see there, 1.7 metres at 36 grams. The F vein at nearly 5 metres, it's 9 grams per tonne. Powder House and East Patch here. And one of the really interesting things here is people talk about the narrow veins that we've got here, but if you look at some of the more areas around here at the Kangalat and the East Pat, you're seeing 36 metres, so some quite wide intersections. So keep your eyes peeled for what will come out when we start exploring some of that other areas. But there is over 38 kilometres of lateral underground development here, and we'll exploit that to the full. We're also very conscious of that we have going to take advantage of this winter and stepping out regional exploration. So we'll look at those areas in the coming months. And then further afield, very much our regional play here, very, very interesting along the Tarp Lake Shear. Some of these areas have never been followed up. 1.8 metres at 66 grams, 4.6 metres at 7, a stunning 36 metres at 1.5 along the Tarp Lake Shear. The core mine shear, likewise, I mentioned to you the Springer Shaft, the F vein and the Powder House target. And then there's the East Patch here. Again, 35 metres at 2.2 grams, showing you that it's not all very narrow grain. This is really exciting, and we'll look forward to going, after this particular asset. And then finally, in summary, we've got the agreement signed and done to earn up to 80% of this fantastic asset. We've got the independent JORC conferred resource estimate of 1 million ounces at 11.3 grams per tonne. We'll be looking to upgrade that in June this year. Historically, this mine produced 1.5 million ounces at 16 grams per tonne before it closed in 66. Bearing in mind that some of the great things about this is we have a huge database of over 170 kilometres of core to examine, all of which has some fantastic information for us to follow up. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit that I talk about. We've got these walk-up targets. We've got a 45,000 metre drill campaign, of which only 20 has been completed, and that will be ongoing. We'll look at infill drilling later on in the year and resource definition from these 4 diamond rigs. And I'd hope to put on some more rigs in the coming months, if they're available. I talk about our board and management, but they are very, very good. And with the addition of Darren, I really think that we have a team you should be backing. And then we've got this near on-ground exploration in 2021, which will provide this really constant news flow of results and activity, which we expect by the June quarter, we will have a resource update for you. And that's it. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks very much, Ray. You've clearly intersected a lot of mineralisation outside of the existing resource. Does that bode well for a resource update in the near future?
Yeah, very much so, Paul. What we're seeing at the moment is some really good extensions, a new vein discovery. And so we feel very confident that we will have a substantial increase to our resource by June this year.
And do you think, you mentioned there's a prospect of getting more rigs, given the upside you've clearly got and the fact that the mineralisation remains open in so many directions, would that be something you'd be eager to do?
Absolutely. So we have 4 rigs turning at the moment. What we would like to do is probably go to a third rig company just to diversify our risk, and then to take maybe that 5th or 6th rig, should it eventuate out into those regional areas that I'm so excited to go after. You've got to remember, some of that patch here is really exciting stuff with big intersections, 36 metres at 2 grams, fantastic, which will only add to our resource base.
And given the results you're getting outside of the resource, Ray, and the fact that you'd like to get some more rigs onto it, it looks like basically it's a treasure trove of opportunity, isn't it? There appears to be gold everywhere you look. Is it really just a case of doing the drilling to increase that inventory figure?
Absolutely correct, right? So the challenge for us is the multitude of walk-up targets, and we're seeing a lot of vein extension, which is really exciting, but it's about making sure we get best bang for our buck and following up that particular vein extension.
So Devex's ultimate goal is to deliver a discovery drill hole to our shareholders. And today I'll talk you through why we believe that Devex is so uniquely positioned and placed to succeed in delivering this. So we have multiple high quality projects spread across several of Australia's exploration and discovery hotspots with strategic and significant endowment within the country. Our projects are most sought after, and each with their own highly prospective targets, including, as Paul mentioned, in the west at the Sovereign project in Western Australia, where we're exploring for high-grade nickel, copper and platinum group elements following the significant discovery by Chalice Mines last year in the Julimar region. We've kicked off exploration drilling, and this is the first time on the Sovereign project that we've seen drilling for basement rocks, and we're looking forward to seeing that over the coming months. Also in the east, we've been exploring in several projects within the Lachlan Fold Belt, the greater Lachlan Fold Belt, including at the Wilgar Downs project in the Cobar region, and also for gold and porphyry copper gold deposits in the centre of the Lachlan Fold Belt in the general Macquarie Arc region, host to Australia's largest porphyry copper gold mines. Also, our project, the Neighbours project in the Northern Territory, is important to us, and we've started to take a renewed interest in the project following the recent uptick in the uranium price, and as countries also scramble to secure strategic investments involved in surrounding energy. So this is a project that Devex has had for some time, and we really quite like it, hence the endowment of the region. The team is well led by a team of experienced geologists, including myself and also Chris Torrey. Together, we have over sort of 50 to 60 years of experience exploring in Australia for these types of deposits. Of course, it's led by, as Paul mentioned, it's led by our chairman and major shareholder, Tim Gorder, who has had fantastic success over the last 18 months with the discovery and his involvement with both Chalice Mines and Liontown Resources and other companies as well. So Tim has been a great supporter of Devex over the years and continues to be both enthusiastic and driven towards encouraging us to get out there and get that drill hole into the right spot. So Devex Resources is a quick company snapshot. We have 283 million shares on issue and just shy of $12 million in cash in the bank. And this is setting up Devex for the future, for our exploration projects and what we plan to be doing in the coming 12 months. And so we believe that we've got a significant upside potential if we can get our drill holes in the right spot for a significant growth. So just taking you into our projects, both starting in the Western Australia and then moving across to East and then ending up in the Territory. Hopefully I'll be able to explain a common theme here at the end. But what I would like to highlight is in Western Australia, following the discovery of some very large, significant nickel copper PG mineralisation by Chalice Mines, we're currently exploring the Sovereign project, which is located between two existing nickel copper PG deposits. First off, as I mentioned, the discovery at Guyana by Chalice Mines, located to the south of the project along essentially a magnetic trend, and also the Yarrawinda Brook to the north of us, which is currently being explored by Cummins Resources. Both are known occurrences of nickel copper PG mineralisation. Where we're exploring at Sovereign project, this area has seen no exploration for this style of deposit until recently. We entered into an earn-in agreement with Australian Silica Quartz Group, who has permitted us to go forth and have an earn-in agreement whereby we're earning up to 50% at the moment in the project on the western side, and we have our own 100% project on the eastern side, which was just recently, the tenement was recently granted. So what we have is naturally on a known trend of known nickel copper PG mineralisation. We're exploring this area for the first time. Just zooming right into the actual project, the images you see here is magnetics on the left. Magnetics is important as it gives you an idea of the trends and the magnetic anomalies that we're seeing there. And on the right is gravity. What's important, as I mentioned, with the lack of exploration is previous explorers by ASQ, or Australian Silica Quartz Group, went and explored for bauxite in this region. Bauxite drilling that they did was very shallow. We're talking about 3 to 10 metres of depth of drilling. They were targeting the bauxite and then they stopped the drilling. They didn't drill through the clays and they definitely didn't drill into the basement. So we re-assayed that bauxite, looking for signs and indications of what the basement rocks could be and also potential mineralisation in the area. And of that and our rock chip results, we started to see elevated and quite anomalous platinum palladium vanadium. We're seeing anomalous copper and nickel and supporting chromium, giving us and sort of shoring up our view that we believe that we're exploring over the top of essentially a nickel copper, a mafic ultramafic intrusion. And what we now need to do is start testing these and test the basement, which has never been tested before. So that's why we've started off with this air core drilling program. We're looking to drill about 7,000 metres of holes over the coming month. 7,000 metres worth of drilling over the coming month and test the basement rocks around these anomalies. We also have geophysical anomalies, both magnetic and in the gravity, but also with the previous airborne EM that we flew. We've got to continue with the ground EM crew and get the crew back out there in the coming weeks to continue following up on several airborne EM targets. So very active in the field right now. Moving across into the eastern states in the central in the Lachlan Fold Belt, we're exploring 3 projects, different styles of deposits, but really the same sort of thing. We're looking for copper gold mineralisation and also gold mineralisation at Wilga Downs in the Cobar project and also the Junee and Basin Creek located nearby to each other. At Wilgar Downs, or in the Cobar region, we have entered into an earn-in agreement with Thomson Resources, whereby we're earning up to 80% in the project at Wilgar Downs. And likewise, we have our own tenement applications, which we have lodged in and on the northern extension of the Cobar, the main mining district, the Cobar mineral field. That application is located on that northern extension of that Rookery Fault, known host to a number of Australia's, especially Cobar Basin type deposits, which has currently been mined, for example, by Glencore at the CSA mine and also by Aurelia at the Great Cobar, the Peak, and a number of deposits. And this area is very active in exploration and well highlighted by the recent joint venture farm-in agreement between Sandfire earning in onto CBH Resources ground at the Endeavour deposit as well. So we're adjacent to that, and we sit on 2 structural lineaments at that intersection, and we've applied for that ground, and we expect to get that ground granted shortly. So just taking you to Wilgar Downs, where we just finished a drill hole in December, that we're targeting magnetic anomaly that lies at a very prospective contact at the contact between the Girolambone Group and the Cobar Basin. That magnetic anomaly had been previously recognised in the 70s, and several shallow RC holes or diamond holes were drilled which encountered some prospective copper mineralisation. Our modelling of those magnetic anomalies show that they sit deeper down, and that's what we were targeting. And if you took this project down into the main mining area, the geology is the same, the contacts are the same, the magnetic anomalies is what's attractive to it, and they're look-alike targets for what you would expect for in the main mining district in Cobar. So we targeted this and we drilled 1 diamond hole in December of last year, and we've been encouraged by those results. So just showing you that diamond hole that we drilled. We drilled that in December. It's that 20WD001 on the right is a cross-section. What you're seeing is a trace of that drill hole, and then the magnetics, which is the yellow circling into darker reds colours. It's just showing you the model that we come up for what that magnetic anomaly is modelled to be at depth. So we drilled that in, and then right in the centre of that modelled anomaly, we intersected a narrow zone of pyrrhotite mineralisation, which is essentially a magnetic sulfide, together with copper sulfides and gold mineralisation. It's a narrow intercept and it's not spectacular. It's 0.7 grams per tonne gold and 0.7% copper. But the important thing is it's the right sort of mineralisation. It's the Cobar type that we're looking for. And the really important message to take home is when we drill this hole, the level of magnetic readings that we got through this entire hole, or what we call magnetic susceptibility, there was very little magnetism in the actual drill hole, and certainly not enough to actually explain what that magnetic anomaly is. So from our geophysicists, they certainly think that this drill hole actually hasn't tested that magnetic anomaly, even though in the centre we've got the right magnetic sulfides. And so we sort of view this as a near miss. Somewhere that's that really large magnetic source, that broad and more intense magnetic source is nearby. And as a result, because we're seeing that it's pyrrhotite with copper and gold, we believe that the next step for us is to do downhole EM to look for an off-hole conductor, looking for bigger and better than what that drill hole represents. So it's in for a good chance, and that's what we're about to start up in the next week or two, which is some downhole EM and looking for that. In the meantime, the eastern magnetic anomaly has had no testing, and likewise we think it stands a good chance for the style. So step by step, but we're working our ways towards a much more targeted drill hole next round should the EM define that conductor. Meanwhile, in the central part of the Lachlan Fold Belt, in the Junee and also the Basin Creek region, where we've been exploring over the last 12 to 48 months, we're exploring for porphyry copper gold style deposits in an area that's one of Australia's largest porphyry copper gold mine hosts. And that's really focusing on the Macquarie Arc, which is the green rocks in the image you see there. This hosts several of Australia's largest porphyry copper mines, including the Cadia Ridgeway and also the North Parkes mine, both being mined by Newcrest and by China Moly. These are what essentially are porphyry monzonites. They occur at exactly the same age in geological time. They've got the same chemistry, and they really sort of sparked off an interest in the region. Where we are at Junee, we've pegged that ground 100% to Devex. We like the area mainly because in 2017, the Geological Survey started to age date a monzonite down in that region, which is the same age as Cadia, same age as North Parkes, and the same chemistry. And that's really sparked off a pegging war and a significant increase in exploration in the region. So just taking you into Junee and then on to Basin Creek. This is the magnetics image for Junee project. The Cobar monzonite, which is the monzonite that the survey age dated to be the same age as Cadia and North Parkes, is just to the north off our tenement. We quite like this magnetic anomaly at Nangus Road, and we drilled a diamond hole into that. The magnetic anomaly sits under some cover, and we drilled a diamond hole into that, and we intersected a monzonite. The monzonite's altered. We see small amounts of chalcopyrite and bornite, but small amounts, not enough to warrant any sort of intercept, but telling us we're on the right path and the right rocks. Where we've gone with it at the moment is we've looked at the area to the north of Nangus Road, where we've just carried out some recent surface geochemistry, and that geochemistry is likewise showing a elevated and coincidental copper and gold soil anomaly. So on the left-hand side, you're seeing the Nangus Road magnetic target, and you're seeing the copper anomaly on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you're seeing the gold anomaly. And essentially they're related, and they've got pathfinder minerals elements associated with it, such as molybdenum and other sort of pathfinders, which are telltale signs of potential for porphyry coppers. So we've got a drill hole with the right rock, similar alteration. We've got soil geochemistry on the northern margin, and we're extending this soil program to the south. But we're mindful that as we move south away from little bits of subcrop, we're going to go undercover, and the effectiveness of the soil is probably going to be compromised quickly. So that will lead us towards air core drilling over the next quarter. And the idea is get some grid-spaced air core over there and map the geology, map the alteration, and get into some mineralisation for targeting with deeper diamond drilling. At Basin Creek last year, we built up this project. We've defined in excess of 3.5 kilometre long golden soil anomaly with associated alterations, significant potassic alteration, all the right signs for what looks to be possibly an epithermal style mineralisation. We drilled this on broad spacings late last year. We drilled 14 holes. The spacings of the holes are anywhere from 200 metres to 400 metres apart. We drilled really targeting, looking for the primary source to the soil anomaly, and we intersected several gold intercepts. They're not spectacular, but take into account the spacing of this drilling. This drilling is anywhere from 200 to 400 metres apart. So we've got a lot of space between the holes, and our next step is to come in with infill drilling and target this, and then extend the soil anomalies and extend the targeting to the north and south, which we just haven't gotten onto since we really got onto this project quickly after it got granted. The other project, which we would briefly talk about, is our Nabarlek project in the Northern Territory. It's located in the Alligator Rivers uranium province. This is a very well-endowed uranium province with traditional mining of uranium. Over 500 million pounds of uranium, U3O8 endowment in the ground. There's a number of very large mines and deposits, including the Ranger mine, which is currently moving towards rehabilitation, but also several very large deposits, including Jabiluka, and also the uranium gold PG deposit down at Coronation Hill. Unfortunately, those deposits are located inside National Park and sensitive, but where our projects are, we're well outside the National Park. We're located on granted tenements with established agreements with the traditional owners, which see any discovery progress smoothly towards operation. What we're exploring around is the historical Nabarlek mine. So we both have the mining lease at Nabarlek and also the exploration licenses. And Nabarlek is by far one of Australia's highest grade uranium deposits. It was mined in the 80s, and they mined 24 million pounds at a grade of 1.8% U3O8. So we're dusting this project off, and we're focusing on the immediate area surrounding Nabarlek and looking at new concepts in this area. And with the uranium price going the way it is, and also with the the strategic scramble for energy stocks out there by countries to secure it, we see this region as being really a hotbed of exploration properties that right now has really been left undone. So a quick timeline just to explain what I was just mentioning. We're focused at Sovereign. We're drilling at Sovereign right now. We've got a month of air core drilling through there, targeting the basement rocks and the geochemical anomalies and the geophysical anomalies. We expect to see results after about a month's worth of drilling from that. We're extending and we're continuing with ground geophysics, including the ground EM. And likewise, this will all lead towards, hopefully with good results, towards RC diamond drilling in the sort of second part of the quarter. At Wilgar Downs, in the next week or two, we're planning to do downhole EM, and then that will lead us towards drilling likewise once we get if we get positive EM response. At Junee, as I mentioned, we've got air core drilling planned for the next quarter, and likewise at Basin Creek. So just summing up, since I've run out of time, the common theme we're delivering here is the Devex projects are unconstrained by historical exploration, and any discovery success will have a profound impact. We're exploring in newly recognised extensions of some of Australia's most promising mineral belts, and likewise in Julimar region, this is a new discovery, a new belt, and we're first explorers on this ground. So it's very hard to sort of say that if we get a significant intercept, how do you constrain that? We've really got a lot of work to do if we can get it to that point, which is our main aim. So we're an invested team. We're well invested, including our major shareholder, Tim Goyder, and we're very active, and we've got multiple programs planned for the coming quarter and for the coming 6 months. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Brendan. We have two questions. One's relatively simple but pretty cuts to the chase. What are the similarities between what you've got and the Chalice discovery?
I think it's a belt. So when you're looking at it, everyone's exploring as a regional belt. The lack of exploration means that the drilling's got to take place to determine the similarities. We've not, and nobody else has tested the basement rocks. We are seeing elevated palladium and we are seeing elevated copper, and that bodes well for the region. So you just have to look at the magnetics for that. It's very early stages. It's at that stage just before the Chalice drill hole was the leading discovery. So we've got work to do, and that's what we're doing.
And just to recap on that timetable you outlined, when can we expect to see some results from the Sovereign project?
Well, we have about a month's worth of drilling and likewise with the assaying. So I would say following that month's worth of drilling, several weeks following that.
Right. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Paul.
At Bardock Gold, we're focused on delivering Australia's next 100,000 ounce plus per annum producer. We've got a PFS that was released last year, got 135,000 ounces per ounce annualised production at all-in sustaining costs about $12.20 an ounce. Our DFS is on track now for March of this year, and we still think there's a lot of room to be able to grow our current reserve as well as our current resource within our tenement package. So we're an advanced gold project in a tier 1 mining location. So 40 kilometres north of Kalgoorlie, there's probably no better place in the world to build a gold mine. Our PFS highlighted a project that was going to produce around 2 million tonnes per year through a CIL and flotation plant over about a 7.8 year mine life. We expect to see some increases in that as part of the definitive feasibility study that we're working on now. And our expectation is we'll try to convert the majority of that 1 million ounce production target into reserves as part of the definitive feasibility study. We've got strong margins at the project at $12.20 an ounce. And when you look at the current spot price, even at Australian dollars, $2,300, $2,400 an ounce, there's significant margins to be made at the project. Our DFS is on track now, and we're going to have financing construction. In our opinion, we'll be able to sort that by sort of the July period of this year, and we'll be able to focus on commencing construction in Q3. We've also just signed off a concentrate offtake agreement for our con offtake, which really does de-risk the project significantly. And we have seen a re-rating in the share price on the back of that. So while most other gold companies have struggled with the drop in gold price over the last few months, Bardock has seen an increase on the back of that concentrate offtake agreement, where we have seen the fact that we have de-risked the project significantly because the concentrate offtake will account for around 50% of our total gold production. We've got strong support from our key institutions who participated in a raise back in last July, and they've been supporting the company and now look to support us into a major construction equity build later this year. The board and management team's led up by the group from Phylum Minerals, and they've got the experience in building mines in the past. Ryan Johnson's a mining engineer with plenty of mining experience to back us up, but the executive team's where we've really built our strength. We've got a team with Kalgoorlie operational experience, experience across mining, metallurgy, geology, and environmental science. And I think we've got all the key ingredients here to really make a successful project at Bardock. 2020 was a big year. We released our pre-feasibility study in the midst of the COVID pandemic. And then we raised $24 million on the back of that as part of an institutional capital raise. We knew we had a good project from a debt financing perspective, but we didn't have the right people on the register to finance the project through into construction. The welcoming of some major institutions onto the register have now given us the confidence to be able to push forward and develop the project and get it into construction in the latter part of this year. We've re-optimised the mine plan and we've upgraded the resource to underpin the DFS, and we've made the key management appointments to make the project successful. We've signed off the concentrate offtake agreement, which really does highlight the benefits of the project, and with the calibre of offtake partner we've got, it's been a fantastic achievement for the company. Our DFS is on track for the end of March this year, and environmental permitting shouldn't be too far behind. And there's no better place to build a gold mine than Kalgoorlie. 40 kilometres north, we're close to road, rail, power and infrastructure. And until 2018, these are a series of unconsolidated projects. And it took the ex-team of Phylum Minerals with Neil and John to come around and focus on the projects and look to really start establishing this as going to be the next gold development story in the goldfields. The merger between Spitfire Materials and Aphrodite Gold, and then again with Excelsior, gave the company around 2.5 million ounces of resource. We've then expanded it out and expanded that resource out to over 3 million ounces and made some low-cost complementary acquisitions that have really given us huge exploration upside, as we've seen with North Kanana Star in recent weeks. The project itself is an 8-year mine life based on the current reserve, which is 790,000 ounces, against a total production of about 1 million ounces. So there's a significant amount of indicated material already in that mine plan. It's a high confidence mine plan, and we believe that we'll easily be able to achieve around about 65% debt equity split for the project. So we're focusing on that now. We've already had initial discussions with banks, and we'll start going out closer to the DFS for the final financing for the project. It's a straightforward processing flow sheet, standard SAG ball mill configuration with CIL tanks for our free milling ore and a flotation circuit for the sulphide ore. The flotation circuit, it is a significantly de-risked process. There's no as much of your metallurgical risk that goes along with some of your other processes like your Albion processes or your BIOX process or the like. And the concentrate offtake terms that we have with our trading partner MRI have really put us in a position where 92% total gold recovered from every ounce mined in Aphrodite is very similar to what you get in a free milling style operation. And the operating costs are fairly similar as well. So we've got a great deal here, and MRI are a really fantastic partner who have the experience of handling concentrate offtake deals in Western Australia. They currently look after Silver Lake Resources Deflector Gold Mine with their copper gold offtake arrangement. They've got the Sandfire Resources copper offtake arrangement, and they also do work for Newmont at Boddington, and in the past they've worked with KCGM. They've operated just at about any port in Western Australia, and they're a fantastic partner to be able to bring the project into production with. And even though the gold price has come off from the highs of the mid last year, around $2,700-$2,800 an ounce, this project, even at $2,300-$2,400 an ounce, is going to generate in the vicinity of about $100 million free cash flow a year on average. It is a fantastic project, and it does present significant upside when the gold price will begin to rise again, as we all expect. The open pit mining got about 420,000 ounces, and we'll see an increase on this mining reserve as part of the DFS study. We've got a lot of upside at the Zoroastrian area, as well as the Aphrodite area as well. We've drilled those out over the last few months, and now all form part of the definitive feasibility study. At underground mining, there's a lot of upside too, because at Aphrodite, it's got a big reserve already, 290,000 ounces, but it all focuses on the alpha and phi lodes. And when we've got Omega, Delta, Sigma, as well as Epsilon as exploration opportunities here at Aphrodite, I've got no doubt that we'll be mining on 5 to 6 years mine life at the moment. At the end of that 5 to 6 years, we'll be mining there for another 5 to 10 at least. At Zoroastrian, we've got a modest reserve, about 80,000 ounces at present. We expect to increase that to over 100,000 ounces as part of definitive feasibility study. And when we have a look, it's still open at depth. There's a multiple lode system, and there's a lot of opportunities, even to the north of the open pit, where we've had some exceptional drill holes over the last 6 months. And since we released the pre-feasibility study, we've just built a timeline that we believed was achievable, and we've been setting about meeting all our key milestones, and we have. The resource update was complete in September. We also had the offtake arrangement signed off in December, and now we're focusing on the definitive feasibility study in March. We don't see any major issues in and around environmental permitting, and then we'll focus on the financing aspect. And as I said, we expect to have that complete by around July of this year. We'll then focus on the construction build for the project. That'll be looking around the August, September start date with the final investment decision. And then it'll be a 12-month construction build before our first gold pour. Now, North Canana Star, it was a bit of a staggered release because of the way the assays come back from their labs, and I can probably say the same with every other junior explorer, that it's been a tough time over the last few months in assay turnarounds. But the project itself is really starting to come together. We've got over 3.5 kilometres now of a mineralised trend here, and the Serengeti project is really starting to show legs. Here we have some significant interceptions, and it's only at the top of the oxidised zone. We still haven't tested a fresh rock component here. We've got some big, broad, high-grade results that we'll look to test at depth with RC drilling in the coming weeks. So we're just clearing the lines for that now with the loaders, and we expect to wheel that RC rig in there. And we believe, if you look at these sections, there's probably about 350 metres between those sections. So if you consider the main Aphrodite project, most of the ores contained within about a 500 to 600 metre strike. There's significant upside here at North Canana Star. Zoroastrian, we've had some high-grade results at the northern end of the open pit, and when you consider post-DFS, we'll have over 100,000 ounces in reserve on the southern end of this high-grade chute. We've defined a new northern plunging high-grade chute here at the very northern end of the project. There's probably going to be around 30 to 40,000 ounces in the open pit here in the DFS, and then we'll focus on the down dip extensions, where we've had some really spectacular grades that do highlight underground potential here as well. So again, Zoroastrian will continue to provide well past its proposed mine life. So to wrap it all up, we've got a strategic land holding in what is a fantastic jurisdiction in Kalgoorlie. We've got a large and growing resource base with 3 million ounces, and we'll look to expand upon that with both greenfields and brownfields opportunities. 800,000 ounces of mining reserve, and we'll look to push that to close to 1 million ounces as part of definitive feasibility study. And we should have strong news flow because we are exploring now. We've got 4 rigs on site drilling away. We'll continue to drill along the Bardock tectonic zone and North Canana Star and the like, and then we'll have our definitive feasibility study at the end of March of this year. We're one of the only developers coming on market that's going to produce over 100,000 ounces per annum annually, but once you consider a brief ramp-up phase, we're going to have about 150,000 ounces per annum annualised production. So it is a significant project, and we've got a strong board and team to be able to execute it in its entirety. We've got all the experience across the management across mining, metallurgy, environmental, and geology as well. And when we look at the board, they've got the experience in getting projects funded and getting projects into production. So it's a fantastic project at Bardock, and I only see the upside from here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. One of the viewers asked us, have you ordered any long lead items for the project?
Not at present. We haven't started focusing on any of the long lead items. We're putting together our scope of works for our EPC contractors, and that should be out in the coming months.
Right. And another question we have is the DFS that's imminent. What can we expect in terms of timing, resource, reserve updates, project funding? Will they be announced close together, or will they be spaced out?
Yeah, so we're going to focus on completing our DFS by the end of March, and that should form a reserve update in line with that DFS timetable. So they'll come alongside together, I'd say.
Okay, thanks.
In terms of the financing component, we're still working pretty hard towards that. Post DFS, we'll start engaging again with the banks, and then we'll have a look at that final investment decision around Q3 this year.
And what sort of cash flows could we expect?
As I said, the project at sort of $2,400 an ounce, the annualised cash flows is about $100 million. And when you consider that our market cap at the moment sitting around 130, with an enterprise value of around sort of 110, 120, there's a lot of upside at Bardock.
Right. Thanks, Rob.
I'm going to outline a story for you which I suspect is going to be quite new for most people. But look, it's only because Alicanto is really only just getting started. It's a ground floor investment opportunity. We've got a market capitalisation of only $32 million at current share price of about 10.5 cents. We're well funded. We've got $7.5 million in the bank after a successful fundraise late last year of $6 million. And we've also recently defined a resource of 500,000 ounces at our secondary Arakaka project in Guyana. Now, Guyana's not our focus, but Sweden, as Paul mentioned, is definitely our focus going forward and has been over the last 12 months. But I think that these highly prospective tenements, with over 12 high priority targets within 15 kilometres of the world famous Phylum mine that was closed in the early 1990s is quite an interesting and exciting project to move forward on. Look, in a nutshell, Alicanto is working to establish a large copper gold polymetallic inventory in Sweden, in a region that is famous for its giant deposits. It has over 1,000 years of mining history, as Paul mentioned. And in terms of Sweden, look, it's very much like WA. I'm a WA boy myself, but I was lucky enough to spend about 6 years working over there in Sweden, and they're two of my most favourite jurisdictions to mine in. The area hosts two world-class operating mines, the zinc-driven mine and the Garpenberg mine over there, and the now closed Phylum mine, which abuts right up to the next door to the Greater Phylum project. All the areas we are targeting are within a 15-kilometre radius, close to existing infrastructure, and I'll talk about that. And but most importantly, we've already started drilling it. The drill rigs are turning. We had a smaller campaign that we started, 4,000 metres towards the end of last year. We're just completing that now. And the $6 million that we raised is for a much expanded campaign that we'll be starting in the next few weeks. But I think you're just heading into the presentation itself. So on the corporate snapshot, so 326 million shares on the register. As I said, a market cap of around $32 million. $7.5 million in the bank, so we're very well funded. So why Alicanto? So look, as mentioned, tier 1 location with a historical high-grade production profile. So the Phylum mine, and I'll have a slide in there in a minute which shows that, but that was 28 million tonnes at some extremely high grade. We've also have the Garpenberg mine and the zinc-driven mine, which might be a little bit more familiar to people. We've got the right team, we're very well funded. We have 1,000 years of geology turned upside down on its head, and we're drilling now with amazing upside. So as far as the board and management is concerned, look, as I hinted to you at the start, look, some of these guys don't need no introduction. Ray, you would have seen earlier on, is now my chairman as of last year, and it's got a definite Bellevue feel to the team, except for perhaps myself and Eric. Just a little bit on myself. So I spent 6 years, as I mentioned, up in Sweden, working for the big companies up there. And Eric himself has about 6 or 7 discoveries in his own right up in that part of the world. So Sweden is a Tier 1 mining jurisdiction. Look, there are 3 major mining districts within the country. You've got the large iron ore mines in the north, you've got the Skellefteå field in the mid-north, and then you've got the Bergslagen district, which sits in and around the Stockholm area in the south. So the Bergslagen is Alicanto's main area of focus. This is world famous as being one of the most mineralised places on Earth. And I can back this argument up with a massive high-grade VMS skarn-style ore bodies that have been mined in the area over the last 1,000 years. The Garpenberg, Zinkgruvan, Phylum and Solar ore bodies are world-class in their metal content, and the importance that they've had to Sweden as a nation, it's unfounded. Many of you might be aware of Sweden's long mining history. And having worked in the country for so many years, I've found it to be many similarities with the Australian mining industry, but its differences to the Australian mining industry are quite stark as well, and what really make it stand out as a Tier 1 jurisdiction. I've got a pro-mining, well-educated workforce in place. I've got highways, railways in place. I've got ports in place. My power is already there, probably one of the cheapest in the world with hydro, and my water's free and it's fresh. So then as far as the Greater Phylum project itself is concerned, as I said, it's been a very busy 12 months for us. We've highlighted, since the discovery of copper-gold skarn at Wolf Mountain early in the year, we've highlighted or found over 12 new copper-gold and polymetallic skarns within the project. The discovery of that mineralisation at Wolf Mountain and at Lustable, it really sent us down on a path of discovery where we now have more of these 12 targets, all within 15 kilometres of each other. Now, the importance of that being that, the recent drilling campaign that is now coming to a close this month has also been very successful, and we've now defined the stratigraphic sequence that hosts the Phylum ore body itself, and we've managed to hit semi-massive and or disseminated sulfides with visible chalcopyrite in all of our targets so far. The definition of the stratigraphic sequence now allows us to interpret where in the system any outcrop or drill hole is located. This is an important tool to allow us to vector in on the juicier parts of the system. This, of course, is of no surprise to us, with a primary method for discovering ore deposits in Sweden at around the time of the Phylum mine closure in the early 90s was a cheap but effective boulder tracing technique. This has not only scratched the surface at the Bergslagen, but consequently left us with an awful lot to discover within the region. I put this slide in here just to show how much that Sweden actually does have mines. So this is the Phylum copper gold mine, which abuts right up to our property. As I mentioned, 28 million tonnes, 4% copper, 4 grams per tonne gold, 5% zinc, 2% lead, 35 grams per tonne silver. This is a phenomenal grades and phenomenal size ore body. The photo also shows the limestone hosted ore body at Phylum, which is in part of the stratigraphic sequence as per the previous slide. It is this stratigraphic sequence that we have now seen over 10 kilometres away in our drilling from late last year up at the Green Mile. And I guess as many as you will know, the best place to look for a large body is along strike from a known one. So into some of the detail on some of the targets we've been drilling. So Wolf Mountain. So as I said earlier, we've intersected disseminated and semi-massive sulfides with visible chalcopyrite in all 5 of the targets that we have now drilled, all within 15 kilometres of each other, and part of the same stratigraphic sequence that hosts the Phylum ore body itself. Now, the Wolf Mountain drilling has shown to us that the alteration system at Wolf Mountain is huge and is getting bigger each time we drill it. Following on from the IP survey that we undertook last summer, we drilled a number of those IP anomalies, and that strong alteration system is now up to 2.5 kilometres long by 1 kilometre wide at surface. Phenomenal. The mineralisation is still distal at this stage, but we're still yet to find the causative intrusion that we believe is driving the heat into the system. But, we now believe it's either to be at depth or potentially a link with the swamp thing, which is over 5 kilometres away. So the Green Mile to Phylum. This is quite a large area now. We started drilling at the Green Mile area, and as I mentioned, we've confirmed the stratigraphic sequence, which we can see at the Phylum deposit itself. We can see that in over 10 kilometres away now at the Green Mile itself, which is a very exciting development for us. Together with the intersection of copper-gold skarn disseminated sulfides near surface that we hit at the Green Mile, this has really piqued our interest in the area. Now, with the downhole EM of the holes recently drilled, combined with the reinterpretation of geophysical data along the stratigraphic sequence, we're really looking forward to getting more drill holes into this part of the system. Swamp Thing is really interesting. As I mentioned before, with regards to the proximity, it's only 5 kilometres away from Wolf Mountain. We're actually starting to see some potential links between these two systems, and potentially even the causative intrusion that has created the opportunity at Swamp Thing may even be driving Wolf Mountain. And if that's the case, that gives us a really large alteration system to take a look at. But we had a small section of proximal copper gold semi-massive sulfide skarn with visible charcoal, and the first ever hole drilled into this target. Super excited. Downhole EM is scheduled again for this quarter, and another priority target for us as we move forward. Heathen, another one of our targets that we've highlighted over the last 12 months. We drilled into that, intersected massive pyroxene pro-grade skarn with 5 to 10% sulfides and visible chalco near surface, with the first ever drill holes put into it. Look, after this initial drilling, we'll definitely be working on the follow-up downhole EM and reviewing that particular target as a priority for us going forward. So with regards to Lusted Bull, that was a target that we drilled earlier in the process, but this is really what it is. These are the grades that we're looking for. The drilling we undertook at Lusted Bull intersects some very high-grade polymetallic skarn, grades up to 9.5% copper, 16 grams per tonne gold, 285 of silver, 3.9 of lead, and 8.2% zinc. And we're looking for more of these, basically, obviously with a bit more width, but these are the type of grades we're looking for. So moving forward, look, it's simple. We're drilling, and then more drilling for the rest of the year. We're fully funded. We've got $7.5 million in the bank. We've got a big year planned, investigating those targets. We're super excited about the stratigraphic sequence that we're seeing and the potential for a Phylum 2.0 in between Green Mile and Phylum itself. But there'll be more news to come out about that at a later date. So just finishing off there on Sweden and just touching a little bit on Guyana, as I mentioned at the start. So look, a significant exposure to gold for us. This is a project that we've had for quite some years, and I was really pleased to be able to announce late last year the 500,000 ounces at 1.8 grams per tonne in an inferred resource for a maiden independent JORC resource. Can't go into too much detail with regards to what we're doing next with that project, but as I've said before, we're running a process at the moment, and hopefully that will come out in the very near future as to what we're doing there. So in conclusion, look, our story is really simple. We're drilling for copper gold, polymetallic skarn, and VMS in a world-class mining area with world-class deposits. We have the right team, as I've shown you, and we are well funded for a junior explorer with 7.5 in the bank. We've re-engineered the geology and turned conventional thinking on its head. With the application of modern techniques, the Greater Phylum project is starting to really divulge its secrets. With a market cap of only 32 mil, we only need a little bit of success on the ground. We're aiming for more than a bit, of course, but we're really just need a little bit of success on the ground for shareholders to have an awful lot. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Peter. Now, there's been a couple of questions. One person's just asked us, can you tell us what the breakthrough would be here? There's obviously a lot of smoke. What would give you a big breakthrough?
Look, my aim is to, we're really looking for a Phylum 2.0. I think that's, that's a big ore body. What we are seeing, especially between Green Mile and Phylum itself, all the indicators are there. The stratigraphic sequence is what we're looking for. We now understand where the ore was sitting in Phylum. So we're looking for any sort of hits over, I guess you could say, 5 metres and an equivalent 5% copper and up.
So to sum it up, you've got the combination of well-established historical mining at good grades, very good grades, and you've got a lot of smoke with the exploration work you've done so far. So you put the two of them together, and that's what leads you to believe you're on the cusp of something potentially pretty good. Yeah, well,
when you go looking for a big ore body, where do you look? You look near to where there's an existing one. And, if we had the Phylum ore body today, I think, the Pack Partners did some research for us not long ago. And, if the Phylum ore body was still there today, it'd be worth in excess of $1.5 billion. So, that's what we're looking for. So you can imagine a tiny little $32 million market cap going to 1.5 billion. I'll take that any day.
Right. Thanks very much, Peter.
Good on you. Thanks, Paul.
good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're viewing this from in Australia today. And I look forward to taking you through Rare X. We've had some exciting news this week, or possibly last week it was, when we came out with our deal we've done with Shanghai Resources, one of the world's largest rare earth companies and a very good partner for us moving forward. So just quickly, the investment overview, where we've come from. It's been a very exciting, dynamic sort of 18 months since we rebirthed the company through a backdoor listing in 2019. We put the Cummins Range rare earth project in there. We did some work on that project, bringing it up to JORC 2012, and then we did our own drilling program late last year, which was really, really successful for us. And you've seen a lot of the share price driven on the back of that drill program. Just recently, we've executed a landmark MOU with Shanghai Resources. Shanghai Resources is a $4.6 billion rare earth company located in Shanghai. It's equivalent to Lynas, it's equivalent to MP Materials, it's one of the big boys. And it's also very active in the Western world. It's done some spectacular investments, most notably its investment in MP Materials, which is now a $5 billion company listed in America. Also, what we've also caught up with in the last sort of 3 months is a renewed interest in the rare earth space, and rare earth prices moving up very strongly to where they should have been possibly for the last 3 or 4 years, but finally we're playing catch up and we're very excited about those prices. Lastly, I'll just touch on our joint venture we have with Kincora in New South Wales. We're very excited by the work they're doing there. Still waiting for them to nail it, but they're getting very, very close to it, we feel. So our company, REE, is the ticker, trading 13 cents, tick over 400 million shares on issue. Our market cap hovers around the 50 million mark consistently, and I still think that's relatively cheap compared to some of our peers in the space. You know, Hastings, etc., they're all over about $200 million at the moment, so we've got a bit of ground to make up and we'll work hard on that this year. Our board is well credentialed to operate in the industrial minerals space. Our chairman, John Young, has had a lot of success with Pilbara Minerals, which should be familiar to this audience. Cameron Henry, he runs Primero Group, who's a very successful engineering group. Gavin Beer is our metallurgist, who's worked on just about every single rare earth project in the world. So we're in the process of giving him some sample to go away and do his test work at the moment. So rare earths, just quickly, what are they? A group of 17 elements that hang down the bottom of the periodic table. Very, very useful in modern life, in rare earth permanent magnets. The ones we're mainly focused on are neodymium and praseodymium, collectively known as NdPr. They're used in rare earth permanent magnets. They're on every wheel of every Tesla driving the motors, they're in every wind turbine, and they're in very high demand at the moment, and you're seeing that reflected in the prices. And I'll show you some graphs on prices shortly. So I just touched on this, but rare earth permanent magnets, that's the game. NdPr, you're seeing exponential growth through this decade. It's not just a story for the last 3 months, it's a story for the rest of this decade. You're seeing growth in EVs, growth in wind power, especially offshore wind power. Those will be the two main areas. Also in all your electronics, anywhere there's a small motor involved, you're probably involved with rare earths. So these are the prices of a couple of the rare earths I pulled out here. You've got neodymium on the left and you've got dysprosium on the right. You've pretty much seen a doubling of prices over the last 3 months. ND's come up from a base of about $40 a kilo to over $80 a kilo now. Dysprosium's trading at about $340 a kilo. Terbium, which I haven't got on that slide there, is over $1,000 a kilo. So these are highly, highly valuable products. So you can understand why we want to be in this space and why we think we can make good money being in this space. So Cummins Range, our project, located in the Kimberley region, just south of Halls Creek, an area that's very familiar to mining. It's got the Pantoro gold mine, the Savannah nickel mine. It's had an iron ore mine operating for some time. The Northern Minerals Browns Range project, which is a heavy rare earths project, is just over the Tanami track, I should say. So it's an area that's very familiar to mining, a very welcoming place to be. We have good relations with all our stakeholders, from TOs to the pastoralists to the environmental groups. We have very good relations and we continue to work on those. Our port of access will most likely be Wyndham. We're also assessing Darwin, as it's actually not that far away from here. And there's absolutely nothing you can't get done in this part of the world, as I've already said. So when we took this project on, it had a JORC 2004 resource, 13 million tonnes at 1.13 TREO. We quickly upgraded that to 2012 JORC. It has a high NdPr content, which is the value driver. It has about 22% NdPr. What we don't talk about there is the heavies content. It probably contains about 5% heavies as well, which is a big driver of value as well. In geology sense, it's the same as Mount Weld. It's a weathered carbonatite. It's a supergene upgrade process, but we also see a lot of potential at depth as well, and that's something we'll be testing further this year. The beauty of these style of deposits is they're free dig, they're from surface, they're easy to mine. The challenge is in the processing, and that's something we're working on now. Late last year, as I mentioned earlier, we went in and did a bunch of drilling over 6,000 metres and had some very exciting results. I've just got one slide in here on what the drilling was last year, one cross-section, but there's some of the results we generated over 100 metres at 3.6% TREO, 90 metres at almost 4%, another 40 metres at almost 4%. These are grades that wouldn't be out of place at Mount Weld itself. We're also seeing some quite exciting attendant niobium numbers, and we're going to assess the niobium as part of the metallurgical test work as well. So what we defined in this drilling was a really high-grade northwest trending channel, and we were excited to see that because that was part of our theory about getting involved in this project. We don't think people had focused on the high-grade core enough, and that's what we did, and we had a lot of success doing it. We also think this high-grade core should extend into the primary, and that'll be part of our drilling program for this year. So just quickly at Cummins Range in 2021, we're busily working away on upgrading the resource from the drilling done in late last year, and that should be out in March this year. The met test work is underway and should be finalised in the first half of this year. And we'll be back out drilling, late March, early April. As you're probably aware, it's very hard to get rigs at the moment, but we've been lucky enough to get some, and we should be out there in the coming months. We're also working quickly on progressing through to a mining lease application through various stakeholder engagements, and that's something we're working on at the moment as well. So our strategy, what has it been? To date, it's been about producing a concentrate. We didn't want to go down the route of trying to build our own cracking and leaching plant, and we're definitely committed to this process. We've got our metallurgist Gavin Beer helping us make a concentrate, and this is designed to reduce the capex. Capex on the back end, cracking and leaching plants are very, very expensive. And as part of this, we've had to go out and identify who the downstream players are in the world, and that leads us pretty well into our deal we've done with Shanghai Resources. So what we announced last week was our MOU with Shanghai. Shanghai, as I mentioned at the start, a very large rare earths company. It's a Chinese company, but it's very much got a Western-focused ethos. It lives and dies by itself. It's not an SOE. It has investments around the world. It has investments in MP materials and also Greenland Minerals. So what we've done as part of this deal is we're going to set up a rare earth trading company together, and we're going to go focusing on looking for rare earth concentrates around the world. And Cummins Range will likely be one of those concentrates that feeds into the capacity that Shanghai has both in mainland China and in Southeast Asia. We intend at the time to look at jointly investing in rare earth refineries alongside Shanghai. So who is Shanghai? Mention them there quickly. They're listed on Shanghai Stock Exchange. What's probably very interesting to note here is they are the major supplier of rare earths to Apple through their recycling plants in China. As I was mentioning earlier, they're very much focused on supplying the West. They're not just your traditional SOE. They very much have a Western-looking outlook, and we're very pleased to be involved with them. So just quickly and finally, our New South Wales copper gold assets. We're free carried in some very exciting exploration going on over there. That's being carried out by KCC, Kincora Copper, led by John Holliday, who's a very, very well-credentialed geologist, discoverer of Cadia. And we're excited by the work they're doing. They've had lots of smoke, lots of encouragement in the skarn. Still yet to nail it in the deeper porphyry hunt, but they continue to drill. And why do they like that part of the world, and why do we like that part of the world? It's next to North Parkes. North Parkes is one of the largest porphyry deposits in the world, second only to Cadia in that part of the world, and they continue to drill there as we speak. Here are some of the results they've had, some of the very exciting bits of core that have come out. And yeah, we'll see where they go with this. So just finally, who are we? We're a rare earths company focused on Cummins Range. We've attracted a very well-credentialed partner in Shanghai Resources to help us execute on our rare earth strategy, both in terms of developing Cummins Range, trading concentrates, and participating in the refining business. We also have excellent exposure to New South Wales in what's happening in a porphyry copper gold hunt there, led by Kincora Copper and some well-credentialed explorationists. And with a modest market cap of 50 mil, as I said earlier, I see a lot of upside left in our share price, and we look forward to seeing the progress of this year and where the share price might take us. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jeremy. We've had a few questions here. Yep. One chap asks, is the dream dead at Mount Weld North?
Yeah, we drilled Mount Weld North, and look, it didn't come in for us. That's exploration, unfortunately. We had a good geophysical target to drill there, and it didn't turn out to be what it was, what we hoped it was. It was just a late-stage granite, so we'll move on from that project and keep going. Right,
so we can tell this gentleman the dream is dead.
The dream is dead.
We'll do that. We'll report back to him. Another chap asked, how are rare earths priced?
Rare earth prices are traded in Shanghai on the Shanghai metals market. You can go to the website daily and see them updated. So, they're traded by the ton or by the kilo onshore in China.
And we're also been asked, who would be the main customers of semi-processed products?
Look, of carbonate or of concentrates at the moment, you're still exclusively, the only capacity resides in China. The West is working on building out its capacity, but in my view, there's still 4 to 5 years before they can process any meaningful amount. So at the moment, you're still taking it to China.
Right. And finally, were you approached by anyone from an American interest?
Look, we've had preliminary discussions, but nothing as advanced as what Shanghai was prepared to offer us. And I think given our stage in life, when a $5 billion gorilla like that wants to do a deal with a modest $50 million company, we feel like it's a good thing for the company to do.
And last of all, what do you see as the next key share price catalyst?
Look, I think people are waiting for us to consummate our deal with Shanghai. At the moment, it's a non-binding MOU, and we're working quickly to make that a binding deal. And then, of course, getting on with drilling and progressing the project in March. So probably March, April will be big months for us.
Right. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks very much.